So I really would like to encourage patients, like, your body can heal itself. You can absolutely do this. Because I think a few patients, when they think like food intolerances or supplements or a lifestyle change, there's a bit in the back of their mind going, that's not for me. I can't do that. That's just, I haven't got the will. I haven't got the strength to it. I'm like, you absolutely do. And you will feel amazing when you do it. So I love my patients, I'd say, actually is a really inspiration for me as well.
Inspired by her patients and empowering them, we speak to the brilliant homeopath Julie Edgley on subjects such as cleaning up your beauty routine, managing your social media intake, when to go to bed at night, and how you should really get to know your body, as those little things are how you actually heal your body. I'm excited to share this episode with Julie Edgley. I hope you enjoy.
My day job is I'm a homeopath, but I also do a lot on social media, and I talk about how to live a really holistic life, but I want to make it really accessible and really so it comes naturally. It's not difficult if anybody wants to make the swap or they've been thinking about changing to organic food or different health aspects, and see what it's like to live that type of lifestyle, because it's what I do personally, but it's what I do in work as well. And it all started when I was a child. So unfortunately for my parents, I wasn't a kid that medication did anything for. I used to have chronic migraines, and the painkillers didn't do anything. So my mum was always looking up natural stuff that, well, what can I do for her? And I always remember my mum looking up magazines and in the library about, okay, what food should we eat? What supplements should we take? And I don't remember anyone in the 80s. I don't remember other kids doing that. So I always thought, okay, that's a bit different. And my mum liked making bread poultices and vitamin C. So that's how I got into natural living. And my mum was very much into eating healthy. So she bought me one of those books. I think it's called the Usborne books. Do you remember those? They were like cartoons. I think I still have it at home. And it was all about the food pyramid and how to eat healthy. And we have chefs in the family as well. So it was all food, natural eating and healthy eating was the way we were brought up. And I was going through secondary school and I thought I was going to do pharmacy. And then I was like, well, I'll do law and I'll do medicine. So I did all the interviews and things like that. Couldn't really find something that fit. And my parents were always like, as long as there's a degree, you can do whatever you want. And I was in UCD, but I found it was kind of a toss up between acupuncture or homeopathy. And I found a homeopathy degree course in London. And so that's when it all started off for me. I love when the media talk about healthy eating and magazines and TV and everything and how to live a healthy life, but it can seem so overwhelming. And I guess what it is, what I want to do with my social media and the message I want to get out is that it depends on the individual. So kind of take it a little bit from everything, see what works for your body. Because when I studied in London, and that was a 4-year license to be a homeopath. And then I had to do the registration. And then I did another year to do the degree course. So 6 years in total. And all of it was around seeing the body holistically. And I think it's very easy to say that, but it took me nearly to my 3rd year to really, because obviously I came from science, I was in UCD, and I did see the body very compartmentalized, like that's the lungs, that's the digestion, but then something clicks and you see it holistically. And you can really see how a little bit everywhere, instead of making huge drastic lifestyle changes. Although some of my patients watching this will be like, you told me to give up coffee and it's been horrific. But it's in some cases, it depends on what the pathology I'm treating. Sometimes it might have to be more dramatic than others, but it's making little bits across the board has the bigger impact. And really listening to your body. So knowing what foods, and I do a food intolerance test. So it's a muscle test and I do it with patients. It's great for kids because it's non-invasive. And if a few foods test up, then I will go to a doctor that I work with who will do the blood tests. It's always backed up. And every time I do the test, I'll get patients like, you know what, I knew those foods just didn't fit right with me. But they need to hear from other people. So that's what I like to try and do is kind of educate the patients. I always say to patients, the least you see me, the better I'm doing my job. Unfortunately, I get on great with my patients, so I love seeing them as well. But it's making small changes, knowing like what works for your body, educating each patient individually on what's the best for them. I love doing it. I absolutely love doing it. I used to have acne. I had really bad acne as a teenager. And so I knew, and I was put on the medication, I was put on the antibiotics, and it worked great, but I was put on for a bit too long. And then it came back, and that's really how homeopathy hit home, because I took the granules and it just went. I was like, this stuff is magic. So basically how I got into clean beauty was, Because it's a bit of a controversial aspect. It's a topic actually, because a lot of people saying, well, the research is showing that it doesn't do any harm for the health. But hold on, the research, a lot of it can be industry funded. There can be a lot of gaps in the research. So how I got into it, a lot of the studies that people are looking at for the effects of cosmetic ingredients are looking from animal studies. So how they're carried out, they're giving a very high dose over a very short amount of time, which is not how we would be exposed to the ingredients, where it's a smaller dose, but over a lifetime. And even if you look at kids' products, it's the same ingredients in a product for a baby. So how I got into it was I was aware from a homeopathic point of view, because we're always looking for a cause to a patient's symptoms. So we're looking at lifestyle, food, stress, everything. So I was always in the periphery. There was something going on, what we put on our skin. I mean, we know we absorb everything that goes onto our skin to a certain percentage. Everything we go on, a bit of it will go into our system. So I was aware of that, and I wanted thicker hair. I really wanted like Disney hair. And when I was studying, when I did my postgrad, a lot of my hair fell out from stress of the exams. And we had to do a 3-year course in 1 year. So it was a lot of stress. And I said, listen, I want my hair back. And I remember I Googled it, and I came onto this forum for long hair. So I've always been able to grow my hair. And they were talking about the ingredients that I was aware of, such as sulfates and silicones, and the effect aesthetically on our hair. And I remember reading it going, oh God, I know about this. Why haven't I done it? And then I researched, and I went onto PubMed and on the journals, and I started looking at the ingredients and what was known for the effects of the ingredients on the health. And the next morning I went, like you, go to put on my lipstick, and I went, I actually can't put this on my skin. I know what's in this. And I wasn't expecting a big change in my health, but then I never had I'm very open about this. I never had a regular period, and I had really painful boobs and, breast cysts. I think a lot of women in Ireland especially have this. And I noticed, so a few months after I swapped everything. So it was so expensive, but I got everything new, makeup, everything, stopped washing my hair. Then I washed it with eggs and things. And a few months later, I started to get regular periods. And I'm like, this is amazing. I can wear white trousers again. Like it used to be, there's guesswork. And then I noticed I was extremely painful breast cysts. I used to be surveyed, I'm thinking in French, followed by a gynecologist. And they were like, well, we can do different creams or medication. But they completely went once I changed all my ingredients. And that's the only thing I changed. I didn't do any other treatments, no supplements or anything. It's like, okay, there's really something in this. And then friends found out about this, and they wanted to know how to change, because I think you're aware when you want to make the swap with your products, it's kind of overwhelming of where to start and where do I buy this, and this is a good product. And so I would talk to them about where to buy it, and they'd change their products and they would notice the difference. And then I started getting patients booking in literally just to change their products, and things for infertility, endometriosis, and they started to see the change again. So I've seen it in practice. So I understand when people say it's a controversial topic, because people think it can be scaremongering. It's like, well, oh my God, we should be terrified of what we put on our skin. It all depends on the patient. It depends on how well you can process these ingredients, how well your liver's working, your kidneys are working. But I always say there is a natural way, and it is actually really easy to swap. It depends on what your symptoms are and what your pathology is, like what you've been diagnosed with. So if it's complicated, I would say work with somebody. It's a lot easier in the long run, and they will put you on the right track. So they will analyze your whole case, what you're eating, even stress in life, and help with stress management. And it's a lot more comprehensive, and it's quicker in the long run. But if you haven't got a practitioner yet, what I would say to you is focus on getting the basics right. So you want your sleep right, you want your digestion right. I talk about digestion all the time. So make sure that you're going to the toilet every day, you feel empty, a certain shape. I won't go into details, but make sure that is working. Make sure your sleep is working, and then look at your skin. And so start with little aspects of that. So if your sleep is you're not getting great sleep, figure out why. One thing is, if you're finding it difficult to go to sleep, it can be that you have a stress going on, or if you're down in the south of France at the moment, it's the heat. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, it means you're not getting enough physical activity in the day. So to start making those little changes. I always say to patients you have to retrain your body to sleep again if you've had a sleep issue. So make sure you're in bed at 10 o'clock to be asleep at 10:30. And that's like the witching hour for sleep. So make sure so you have those box ticked. In terms of your digestion, investigate what is the aspect of your digestion, what is your symptoms. If you have acid reflux, look at the food that you're eating, make sure that it's just vegetables and fruit, very simple food. And if you're constipated, make sure that you're drinking enough water, you're getting enough fat, enough magnesium. So these are little things that you can do, and make sure that the basics are functioning properly in your body. And then you'll see the knock-on that effect that will have on your other symptoms. I say to patients, it's like your phone, and we're trying to restore your phone to factory settings. So we're trying to get everything back to the basics. You really have to investigate like when everything started. That's the key to it. And I even had a doctor who wanted me to kind of lecture on how to take cases, because quite quickly you can find out if you find out when everything started, you will pinpoint the cause. And sometimes if you have a patient who's sensitive and seem to be on multiple layer symptoms, you will need the symptoms can be a cause of one trigger, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So you need to investigate what that is. If you can't investigate that straight away, you pick one symptom. So you pick one system. For example, if it's dairy, then you start to look at the gallbladder, you look at the liver, you look at the probiotics that the patient needs to take or not. Every patient is different. You start with that and see how the case unravels. So it's cases like that you can't really tell the patient how long they'll need to take the treatment for, but you want to do little bits every so often and take the time with the case. You don't want to shock the whole system. But investigating exactly when everything started, that's really important. I get a lot of patients like, I want to come and see you, but I don't know what I need to see you for. So there's two aspects of that. So I'm a homeopath, and the basics of homeopathy is we give you something that would create your symptoms in somebody else. So that's the basics of it, but it's kind of a lot more complex than that. But an example would be if a patient had a fever, and they're delirious with a fever, we'd give them belladonna. Now, if anyone else took belladonna, they would get delirious with a fever. So it's like cures like. That's what the basics of homeopathy is. But the whole philosophy, the whole analysis behind it is that your body can heal itself. I mean, we see this every day when we cut ourselves, or even when we have to process something emotionally. The body can heal itself. We just need to figure out why it's not doing it. So with homeopathic remedies, we're boosting that natural system, and the analysis looking at why. So what we call obstacles to cure, maintaining causes, exciting causes. So these are all aspects that we're trying to analyze. And looking at it holistically is, even doctors can be holistic practitioners. It's basically analyzing the whole case. So if somebody comes into me with asthma, I don't just focus on the lungs. I'm looking at the digestion, I'm looking at the sleep, I'm looking at stress management, I'm looking at the adrenal glands. You're taking everything at the same time, and you see which is. Remember the crystal maze? Do you remember wasn't there that game, the crystal maze, where they had to just turn one thing and then the whole crystal would come out? That's what it's like treating holistic. You find the one point of weakness, you treat that, and then you just see the cascade effect on the rest of the patient. As adults, our ability to adapt to new situations can be a bit more complicated than kids. Kids are great, they adapt. Do you know what I mean? They just have no fears, like, okay, won't go to school. Whereas adults, we have learned behavior, we have our habits. And so when that changes, it's like our brain, like, oh my God, I need to make new neural connections. And that takes energy to do it. So I think a lot of what happened is, instead of, a lot of people can analyze themselves and like, what's going on with me, is like, you know what, your body's just tired because your brain is trying to adapt to a new scenario. And that can take a while. That can take nearly up to 3 months. So that kind of be very gentle with yourself, very kind with yourself. Let your brain, it's like if you're a kid learning to write again or learning a new language. That's kind of what our brains were trying to adapt to. And then on top of that, there could have been the stress. Like, I know a lot of people are worried about their jobs, or if they have kids, trying to do schoolwork and everything. A lot of it, I find, was exhaustion that is manifesting as stress and emotions. So a lot of people need to kind of give their body a bit of a rest, and give everybody a bit of a rest. Like, make sure that you have days completely off work, or you're just lying in bed and everyone's just lying in bed having a TV day, although that's a screen. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I think that's kind of understanding what was going on through the lockdown. Now, that could have been in the lockdown. We call it the confinement over here, but I think it's lockdown in Ireland. During the lockdown, it kind of awakened some underlying emotional triggers. Like I said, I talk a lot about learned behavior, and learned behaviors as children, how we viewed the world, and how we viewed adults. Like, okay, as an adult, I need to be like this. And we adapt this behavior. And then sometimes that might be to our detriment, it might be for the best for us. And so that can be triggered of things that, like, okay, that behavior pattern doesn't work for me anymore, or that type of lifestyle doesn't work for me anymore. And it's only when we're going back to work, people are realizing what their life was before the confinement. And they're like, actually, that doesn't work for me anymore. And it's having the energy. That's firstly, having the energy and having the courage to say, actually, I'm going to change my lifestyle. And that can take a bit of a deep breath to do that. I treat a lot of kids and a lot of teenagers, and I say to the parents, I'm like, you need to be aware of how a teenager's brain forms they are very addicted to the screen. And so if you're getting teenagers, like how many years now do we have Facebook and all that? So they're teenagers now that are coming into adulthood. So they're already formed with the addiction to the screen. So that can be a bit harder to break. So what I would say, if any of parents out there and you have teenagers, I mean, they might sulk and they might fight with you, but you're doing the best for them, for the brains, is make sure that they have the phones are outside of the bedrooms at night. The computers are outside. Let the whole family do that. So if, for example, go back to, like, I don't have it here, but a traditional alarm clock, don't have your phone beside you. That is very important. If you did one thing, do that. So everyone kind of charges their devices at night at a station away from everybody else. And I think what it is, like, those apps that tell you the hours are great, but I've never seen them have any effect on my patients. Like, yeah, I'm 4 hours. It's like, so no, I haven't done anything about it. But it's kind of treated like you would treat a chocolate addiction, or you treat a crisp addiction, or any addiction. You have to do the 21 days of accountability. So everyone's saying, listen, I'm coming off my phone at a certain time, and I'm going to announce it for 21 days. So you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Accountability. That's what I'm looking for. So treat it like a real addiction. And like I said, nobody's immune to it. So everybody should have a bit of a social media detox or a screen detox. The problem is we have phones, we have iPads, we have laptops. It's difficult as well for people who work for themselves, because it's the buzz of it kind of feeds the fear. Because if you work for yourself, you're like, I can't be off it, because what if I miss a client? What if I miss a call? Or what's this? They're irrational fears. So you need to have, because everyone turns off at night. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone is working 24 hours a day. So you need to be aware of the monkey mind. The monkey mind is that kind of story we're telling ourselves, and we're like, is that actually true? Now, a lot of this can be impacted with stress. So if you're already stressed, you're already the hamster on the wheel. So I would say to people, bring all the stress levels down. A lot of people don't even, like you talking about stress, they don't realize how stressed they are until they've taken their foot off the wheel. So kind of do a cull of everything. Do your social media times during the day, your screen times of the day, and like the news channel. Reduce your coffee, reduce your sugar, do it all at the same time. You'll be absolutely miserable. And there's going to be a day about 2 weeks to 3 weeks in, where you're going to hate everybody. You're going to cry all the time. Literally, it's just your neurons, your brain waves changing. So that is happening. And actually, that's a bit of achievement when you know that's going to happen. It's like, listen, I hate everybody today. So I've reached the height of my addiction, and it's going to be plain sailing after this. I come from a family that we always worked for ourselves, especially the women in the family. We always worked for ourselves. So that was always just, it came naturally to me. And I think, so I've always looked at kind of, well, my grandmother did this, my great grandmother did this, and I want to kind of, it's just who we are. So I think I can take it for granted of what it's like to work for yourself and what you have to do and get yourself out there, and don't take no for an answer, and have really that passion of loving your job. I love my job. I love that, getting a patient in, like you said, they don't know where to start. I've gotten their blood tests. I've spoken to the doctors are working with me, and we all sit together like a team. I'm like, I work with the patient. If they say to me, listen, I can't give up coffee today, like, don't worry about it. We're going to do something else. And you see the change evolve in them, and they see it. I absolutely love empowering patients like that. I think that kind of came as well from my family doctor when I was growing up. He was very easygoing. His name was Dr. Walsh. And he always listened. I still remember Dr. Walsh when I was a kid, and he always just listened to you. He goes, well, tell me what you need from me. And so I'd love to do that to patients, like, what can I do for you? And we work like a team. It's not me doing the treatment for them. I just know the books. They're doing the treatment. And I understand sometimes how hard it can be. So I really would like to encourage patients, like, your body can heal itself. You can absolutely do this. Because I think a few patients, when they think like food intolerances or supplements or a lifestyle change, there's a bit in the back of their mind going, that's not for me. I can't do that. That's just, I haven't got the will, I haven't got the strength to it. I'm like, you absolutely do. And you will feel amazing when you do it. So I love my patients, I'd say, actually is a really inspiration for me as well. It is overwhelming. Like, I've been doing this for years. Do you know what I mean? So it just comes, you get to stage where it's kind of intuition. And you're like, okay, this time I have to see the doctor. And the doctors that I have, my doctors, I have two of them. They really, really listen. So it's all the way back. We're all on the same page. But I'd say if you were overwhelmed, just focus on one thing. And I think deep down we all know one thing we need to change. Like, I know, I give you an example. I used to have hypoglycemia, which, if anyone is listening to this and they heard migraines, you know, migraines and hypoglycemia go together. And I remember, like, I need to sort this out. So, okay, it's not the healthiest food now on reflection, but at the time it completely changed my life. So I said, as soon as I got the first symptom, I'd get a ham and cheese sandwich. I knew I needed protein. And just the fact of kind of being able to, instead of going to sugar when the blood sugar levels went, it evened everything out over a few weeks, a few months. And then I'm like, okay, I can sleep better. So you always choose one little thing, and you have no idea the impact it's going to have on your life. a ham and cheese sandwich. Who knew?